What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabra.
What's going on, everybody? Kevin Valentin here, the half of the podcast. Kyle, what's going on, man? Looks like we got ourselves a guest on the cast.
Kev, this is your boy from Nike. Lay out the red carpet, bro.
Yes, sir. This is a coworker that I had back at Nike back in the days in college. My boy Charlie Banks, one of the most good-looking motherfuckers out there in Miami. Ladies, I don't know his status, but I mean, look at him. One of the most beautiful guests we've ever had. Welcome to the show, bro.
Appreciate having me, guys. Let's have some fun. Let's talk some football.
Yes, sir. I know Justin Herbert would be so proud of the flow, my guy.
Childhood dream, just not a child anymore.
Child at heart, though.
Yeah, big child.
Kevin and I are in our late 20s, but I think at heart, we're still like, what, 15? Or at least we feel like we're a kid still. So,
Maybe younger, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. And maybe me. Sometimes I still act like one, but it is what it is. But
no regrets.
But boys, we got a lot to get to. We got the first round of the NFL playoffs coming up in the wild card round. We've got 6 games to cover. So we got games on Saturday, on Sunday, and then we have
5 games.
There are 5 games?
Mm-hmm. 2 buys. 7 playoff teams.
There are 6 games, Kev.
There's 6 games. There's 3 on each.
What? Fucking CBS eliminated it. That's why it cut it off. I'm literally looking at it. I'm like, dude, there's 5 games on my screen here. Oh, well, that's great.
Because there's the Monday one. There's the Monday
one, too. There's a Monday game? Since when?
Well,
there's 2 Saturdays, 3 Sundays, and a Monday.
Has there always been a Monday playoff game?
No. ESPN, a little bit of that money.
Well, they have to because Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are on the call for that one. So,
and of course they're gonna and Troy's gonna get the Cowboys game.
Yep.
Ugh.
And he might have.
Oh my god!
But depending on how that game goes, he might have to suffer through that one. But
sure. Hope so.
Kev, the agenda's gonna be pretty simple. Do you want me to just lay it on out?
Let's just ride through it.
All right. So, got 6 games to cover. We've got the Seahawks and the 49ers. We've got the Chargers and the Jaguars. We've got the Dolphins and the Bills. We've got the Giants and the Vikings, Ravens and Bengals, and then to finish it up, we got the Cowboys and the Bucks. And to be quite honest with you guys, we're just gonna go in that order. We're gonna try to be as efficient as possible with each game. There are 3 of us here, so hopefully this thing doesn't drag out to like 2.5 hours. Kev, we've done NFL Wild Card Weekend in the past, and I know like some of our episodes got pretty long. So I think one time we had one episode go like 2.5 hours.
When two and some change, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll try to be as efficient as possible, but nonetheless, let's dive into this game between the Seahawks and the 49ers. It's gonna be a big NFC West matchup that's gonna be featured on Saturday. So this is one of the 2 Saturday games. This game is going to take place at 4:30. This game will be in San Francisco. Just to give you guys a quick rundown of where both teams are and how they got here. The Seahawks are the 7th seed. They were able to clinch the last wild card spot in the NFC in Week 18, thanks to the Lions defeating the Packers in Lambeau. And then to kick it to the 49ers, the 49ers are the 2 seed. They've been one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They've won 10 straight games going into this playoff matchup, and they will run it back for the 3rd time this season just because the 49ers and the Seahawks are divisional rivals. So, Charlie, you're the guest here. Let's kick this one to you. We've got the 49ers and the Seahawks going at it on Saturday and Wild Card Weekend. Who do you think is going to win and why?
The Geno Cinderella story is not going to be very nice in this one. Their defense is not a Pete Carroll defense of recent years, and it's, well, I guess of old years. Their recent years have been all not very good. And I mean, Geno's been a career backup. Like, I would love for the Cinderella story to keep going. He's like 2nd or 3rd in the league for passer rating, but that 49er defense is all world. They're disgusting. Bosa's probably going to get to him 4 or 5 times and get him on the ground 2 or 3. Like, this is this game's not going to last long. I'm assuming it'll probably be pretty much over mid-third. The spread's what right now? 9.5. Yeah, I could see it easily going plus 10 for San Fran. Like, it's not going to last.
Kev, go ahead.
Dude, I got this as a route, to be honest with you. No disrespect to Seattle. No disrespect to Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. Geno earned himself a payday this season for sure. Top in the league in completion percentage, like Charlie said. Top 3 in passer rating. I mean, threw for over 4,000 yards. If I'm not mistaken, that's a Seattle Seahawks franchise record. Russell. But, overall, I just find that to be absolutely comical that this game is even a game. I mean, Kyle already said it. 10-game win streak, league's best defense, doing it with their third quarterback of the year, one of the most brilliant offensive minds in Kyle Shanahan as their head coach. I mean, D'Amico Ryans has this defense absolutely swarming and just hungry to dominate whoever's in front of them under center. And I think that this game is going to be it's going to get out of hand quickly. I mean, Deebo Samuel's back. Christian McCaffrey's having himself an incredible season. And Nick Bosa's having a defensive player of the year category, statistical season as well. So, I mean, the Niners smacked them around in the regular season 2 times, and I'm not going to go out there and say that the regular season makes a difference, but when it's a divisional opponent, you kind of know who you're playing against, you're familiar with their scheme, and Charlie also said, I mean, Seattle's defense is pretty piss poor. It's probably one of the worst defenses in the postseason right there next to Minnesota. So, I mean, I got the 49ers probably winning by 17-plus points in my personal opinion. I think that Christian McCaffrey just blows a hole in this defense and probably rushes for over 125 yards. I think Brock Purdy won't have to do too much because the run game's going to get out of hand, and they'll probably go up early with maybe even a defensive score. So I got this going 35-17, 35-21 if Seattle can get into a rhythm. They do have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and the offensive rookie of the year, in my opinion, in Kenneth Walker. But with the inexperience in the postseason and a bad defense, it's not a good formula to win against the league's best defense in the postseason.
I agree with you guys completely on this one. I think the 49ers are going to run away with this one. Charlie, I tend to agree with you. I think more than likely this game is going to pretty much be over by around mid-third quarter. Hell, it could even be over by halftime. I mean, the way that this game is set up for the 49ers, I think it's well in their hands simply just because I think when you look at each level or just really each unit specifically, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, I think the 49ers win every single category. Just because if you look at it from an offensive perspective, no matter quarterback who they've had in this year, whether it was Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and now Brock Purdy, I mean, it's really just been a humming machine pretty much the entire year. Finishing on a 10-game win streak is absolutely phenomenal. Brock Purdy has not lost a start since filling in for Jimmy G in relief. And when you tie in all the weapons that they have at their disposal in that offense, outside of Brock Purdy, you got Christian McCaffrey, you've got Deebo Samuel who's coming back, you've got Jawan Jennings, you got Brandon Ayuk, you got George Kittle. I mean, good luck trying to stop that if you're Seattle from a defensive perspective. I just don't think they're going to be able to. And then when you kick it to San Fran's defense, San Fran has one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL. The only defense that may be similar in nature, maybe the Buffalo Bills, but I'm more inclined to believe that the 49ers have a better defense. I mean, there have been games where they've just completely shut down opposing offenses. They've done it to the Seahawks twice this year already, and I don't really see any other pathway forward other than the Seahawks taking an L here. I think the only way the Seahawks win this game, if I'm to give them a little bit of hope, is they have to force some turnovers against the 49ers offense, and they have to immediately cash those in for touchdowns. They cannot settle for field goals in this game against San Fran. San Fran is just too explosive from an offensive perspective to be settling for 3 points. Geno Smith has been very good this year, but like Charlie said, I do think that Cinderella type story that we've seen from Geno Smith this year, it does come to an end. But, as far as I see the result being, I got the 49ers winning this one big, like Kev said, probably somewhere around 14 to 17 points. I think that's probably more than likely I see the result being as well. If I had to put a score on it, I think San Fran wins this one by the score of, let's say, 31 to 14. I just think that Seattle's going to struggle to move the ball offensively against that defense in San Francisco. And I think Brock Purdy is going to have a pretty solid day overall, but I think it's going to be a pretty well-rounded offensive show from the 49ers simply just because they can run the ball effectively, they can pass the ball effectively, And if Deebo Samuel, if they utilize him out of the backfield or get him on some jet sweeps, if you're Seattle, just watch out. It's going to be a train wreck for Seattle if they let the 49ers get rolling. And if Seattle turns the ball over on top of it, this could potentially be a 3-touchdown loss for Seattle. So to wrap this up, I got San Fran advancing to the divisional round and smacking the Seahawks pretty convincingly as far as I see it.
It's going to be interesting, just because, again, with it being a divisional matchup, it can be competitive. Obviously, like I stated in my point, both teams know each other very well, but it's hard, even when you have prep time, even when you are familiar with the opponent, you still have to stop that defense. You still have to move the ball with the offense that you have. And, they're very reliant upon the run game. I know Kenneth Walker had over 1,000 yards on the ground. And San Francisco's got one of the better running defenses in the NFL. So if he can't get it going, that puts all the pressure on Geno. I mean, we saw it in an example on Christmas Eve, if I'm not mistaken, if not Christmas Day, when they played the Chiefs. Kenneth Walker couldn't really get it going. Geno Smith did not have time to throw that ball. That pass rush from Kansas City was able to get to him relatively quickly. I would say that San Francisco probably has a better pass rush than Kansas City. It's just, once again, it's an easy, successful formula for victory when you limit the run, you pressure the quarterback, and your offense just puts points up on the board. It's not looking like a good day for Seattle, realistically. It's a terrible first matchup.
The only thing I'll say about that one game between Seattle and KC, that was the day where it was literally like negative 10 degrees outside. And you could say that weather probably played a big factor just because.
Not to DK, that boy was shirtless in warm-ups.
I mean, I can tell you this, that offense was not running and gunning when it was game time, though. I mean, they might have been fine during pregame, but I tell you what, they were not running in that game against the Chiefs. Chiefs handled them pretty convincingly. But no, I just
pretty much. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, just San Fran pretty much has an advantage at every single unit.
Yeah.
Like, other than the 2 wide receivers, but the passing game isn't as good to a last pick of the draft guy. Like, it just, nothing is really there for them.
I mean, Seattle does have good weapons in Tyler Lockett and DK. It's just
better than the other receiver, the 2 Ayuk and Deebo Samuel.
But they also have Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings is a nice third receiver that they have, and then when you have George Kittle on top of that, who's one of the best tight ends in the game,
when healthy, absolutely.
I mean, Brock's got a lot of options to go to, so that may be the only thing that may hold Geno back a little bit is that he's really only beholden to 2 big targets. Granted, DK's a beast, Tyler Lockett's a beast. It's just outside of that, things can get a little bit dicey.
Shaky
in that wide receiving core for Seattle.
Agreed.
San Francisco really doesn't have that issue. They're pretty much loaded offensively from top to bottom, and Kyle Shanahan's just an absolute master of running that offense.
Yeah.
But with that said, Charlie's gonna have a good time with this one. We're gonna talk about his team a little bit here. We're gonna talk about the upcoming matchup. It's gonna be an AFC wildcard matchup that will feature the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego. And the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup just to kind of focus on both teams here. The Chargers were able to get one of the wild card spots. They are from the AFC West, but the Chiefs won that division pretty handily. But nonetheless, the Chargers were able to secure the 5 seed. When you look at the Chargers, they've been pretty solid this year. Justin Herbert's having a nice year. Defensively, they've gone through some injuries. Really, the Chargers have been one of the more snake-bitten teams by injuries this year compared to some other teams in the NFL. And then when you kick it over to the Jaguars were able to win the AFC South. Granted, wouldn't say it was the most convincing record compared to some other teams around the AFC. But nonetheless, somebody had to win that division, and Jacksonville was able to win that one essentially in the last game of the season against the Titans. Very close game against the Titans, by the way. Only won that game by, I believe, like 4 points. So this will be an interesting matchup. This game will be taking place on Saturday. It's going to be in Jacksonville. So, Charlie, to kick this one to you, we've got the Chargers going up against the Jaguars on Saturday in this wild card weekend matchup. Who do you think is going to win and why?
So it's kind of tough. They're both almost identical teams in the sense that they both have young, huge arm, big stature quarterbacks that are coming a draft apart. One was drafted 3 years ago and one was drafted 2 years ago. They both had head coaching issues. They both don't really have a running game. Both offensive lines are up and down. They've both had injuries. Their defenses are mid-level. They both have good pass rushing defenses, but it's about it. The Chargers the past like 6 games have been outstanding in defense in comparison to what they were putting out at the beginning of the year. But it's basically they also played back the first 6 games. I think it was around week 5 or 6, and the Jags routed them. But the Chargers were beat up. I think that was the game or two after Herbert got his ribs cartilage broken. Like, they were a shell of the team that we're seeing now. And it really comes down to the Jags are pretty much healthy. The Chargers still aren't going to have their left tackle, Rashawn Slater. If they can advance, he probably will be back the next game, which would be huge. But it really comes down to if Mike Williams plays. Because Mike Williams, Staley put them all in, put all their starters in for like 3.5 quarters of that last game, and he went out with back spasm, which there was a back contusion, so he had a back bruise. If he plays, though, there's not enough defenders to be able to cover Mike Williams. He's an uncoverable player. So with the spread right now is what, 1.5? The Chargers. So I guess they have like that 1 point home field, or I guess if it was at home for the Chargers, it'd be like a 4-point spread. I think the Chargers are going to win in kind of like one of those medium shootout games of like a 28-32. So if it was a home game, they'd cover the spread, and since it's an away game, they're getting points on Jackson.
Kevin, the floor is yours.
It's weird for me, man. Like, this game, like Charlie said, 2 young quarterbacks, 2 inexperienced teams, and both head coaches. I can't even say both because Doug Peterson has a Super Bowl with the Eagles from a few years ago. So one head coach is kind of like very inexperienced and very inconsistent with play calling. So I'm for whatever reason, I don't know if it's AFC South biasness or what, I have Jacksonville winning this game. I just believe that Jacksonville's pass rush has improved over the course of the last few weeks. I think that their secondary has made plays when they needed to. And I think that Trevor Lawrence has been playing at an exceptional level lately. Travis Etienne is finally coming out of his shell and showing everybody his potential. And then I also believe that the wide receiver core of the Jaguars makes plays when they need to. And Evan Ingram has been doing relatively well as also. For me, it's I think that the Chargers have too many injuries. I think Mike Williams' back spasms or injury, contusion, whatever you want to call it, may come back to bite them in the end because, one of their best receivers is not going to be at full capacity. They've had the injuries to the secondary. They've had multiple injuries to the wide receiver core all season long. The only thing is Austin Eckler is a man amongst boys. The guy had an incredible season fantasy football-wise, all-purpose yard-wise. He can run between the tackles. He can catch behind the line of scrimmage. He can just make plays. And with Justin Herbert's arm, it's really hard to go and bet against LA. But I don't know what it is. Like, I've been talking to Kyle about this all year. Whenever I have these weird gut feelings, I just have to pick the pick. You know what I mean? And I just feel like Trevor Lawrence is going to be ready for the big stage. All the guy does is win at every level. I know last year he had a pretty atrocious rookie season and campaign, but Urban Meyer was a big portion of that to blame, and Doug found a way to turn that around. I think Jacksonville ended the season on a 5 or 6 game win streak of their own, and they found a way to get it done. So I got Jacksonville, man, and that's not like me to go and pick the Jags, division rival. Not a team that I like very much, but I think that Trevor Lawrence is ready for that next step. And, it's both quarterbacks' postseason debut, so it's who's going to come out on top. I'm just very curious.
For me, this is a very tough pick for me, just because I think really both teams have a good chance to win this game. I am going to side with the Chargers, though. I think they will be able to go on the road and get a very close win over the Jags. When it comes to both of these teams in general, like both of you guys said already, we're talking about 2 younger quarterbacks in Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. And I think that's going to be kind of a big factor in this game. So I would not be surprised if we see both quarterbacks early on struggle. Just because, look, the lights may be a little bit bright for them at first, knowing that there's a little bit more pressure on this game than just a typical regular season game. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see both teams try to adjust that by running the ball a little bit more effectively with their running back cores, respectively. I just believe that when it comes to the Chargers, I think they're going to have a better time running the football than Jacksonville, simply because when I look at the Jags over the last couple of weeks, they have been giving up some decent rushing attacks against themselves. So if we look to last week against the Titans, they gave up 100 yards plus to Derrick Henry. Now, granted, Derrick Henry is going to get a lot of touches just because that's the way that the Titans run their offense. But I think the Chargers can find some exploits in that Jaguars defense and take advantage of them where, you see Austin Eckler possibly, get some 5 to 10 yard chunk plays throughout the game. I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Eckler gets at least 75 yards rushing on the ground and potentially up to 125 yards as well. Simply just because Austin Eckler is a huge piece of that Chargers offense. And I think if they get him involved in the running game early, and they also utilize him out of the passing game extremely well. He's one of the more proficient running backs that you'll ever see in the passing game, and the Chargers do a great job with that, using him in that role. I think it will just open up the offense for the Chargers as a whole, and I think that Jaguars defense, while it can be a very ferocious pass rush, specifically with that Jags front four, maybe you can even throw in their front seven as well. I think the Chargers are going to make some adjustments to try to get that pass rush not home. And I think there's going to be an emphasis on getting the ball out early and really getting that pass rush of Jacksonville kind of stymied if they're not able to get Justin on the ground consistently throughout that first half. So to me, this is just going to be an interesting game to see how it plays out. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. And I really see this game going one of two ways. Either it's going to be a shootout where both defenses struggle, or both defenses are going to play pretty well, and this is going to be a low-scoring game. I'm actually more inclined to believe that this will be a lower-scoring game simply just because I think both quarterbacks are going to struggle at first. They may improve in the second half, but since this is a new territory for both of them, I think there's going to be mistakes made by both quarterbacks. I think Trevor's going to make more, despite this being a home game. And I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers are going to make them pay in that regard. So as far as I see this game being played out, I think it's going to be a one-possession game when it's all said and done. I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers here. I'm going to say they win this one by the score of 23-17. I think Justin Herbert is going to lead some drives late in that second half, probably late in the fourth quarter, that are going to get them into position to score touchdowns. And I just don't think that Trevor Lawrence and that Jags offense are going to be able to do enough despite being at home. So I think this is going to be a fun game, though, none the least. And with two quarterbacks like this that are young and have a lot of potential to go, I don't think it's going to be like a death nail in the coffin for their individual careers. I think there's still a lot left for these guys. They have a long way to go in their NFL career. But I'm going to give the edge to Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and I think they advance to a divisional round after this weekend is settled and over with.
Yeah, I could see there being a little bit of coaching jitters, though, because with Sean Payton kind of looming, and that being, he's already talked about how that's if he could go to one place, it'd be Los Angeles, and he could go coach. Oh, that quarterback over there, they got that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I can see Brandon Staley kind of trying to prove too much, though, and doing some of the more reckless, stupid things that he does. I think Staley is amazing of having the cojones to do some of the crazy things that he wants to do, but I could see him just doing something at the wrong time, kind of like what he did against the Chiefs, and just go for it too early in the game, and it just screws them over. Go for a fourth on their own 40. So that's something to just kind of pay attention to in that game, because Doug Peterson doesn't do that. He'll go for every now and then a trick play, or let's go for two when we need, just to kind of make the score even out. But Staley just kind of does some weird, reckless things sometimes.
Well, I think when it comes
Go ahead.
Go
my
ahead.
bad, Kyle.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say my biggest concern for the Chargers is similar to what Charlie said. If Staley gets too overconfident and they start leaning on Herbert more, like when he has 45, 50 passing attempts, you become one-dimensional. And I know that Austin Eckler is confident and he's well more than capable enough to catch out of the backfield. you limit yourself to what your playbook is. You abandon the run game. You start to be way too consistent in putting all the pressure on Justin. Again, a rookie quarterback in terms of playoff experience. It's not a good look. There have been a multitude of games that Kyle and I have covered with the Chargers where you just look at it and you say, whether it's a win or a loss, 50 passing attempts, 52 passing attempts, 48 passing. You're just like, how much can you put on this kid to do? You have a dynamic running back in Eckler who can carry the load for 20 to 25 attempts. Why are you not leveraging that enough? And I know that he makes up for it in total yards and scrimmage yards as a whole, but you cannot put all this pressure on an inexperienced quarterback and a rookie head coach in his first postseason. It's not going to be a good formula for success. Doug Peterson is prepared. He is a Super Bowl caliber head coach. He has proven it in turning around this team in Jacksonville. I wouldn't be surprised if they go pass heavy in LA. That pressured on the quarterback. Justin Herbert's going to be forced to make a couple of mistakes, and that's going to be the end of Brandon Staley's tenure. And to Charlie's point again, man, if Sean Payton is available and he's that interested, that's going to be a quick and easy decision for the Chargers GM to say, let's go get a head coach that's eventually going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes down to whether or not that the Chargers can establish a run game early on. And I think the only reason why I bring that point up is to get that Jacksonville pass rush, basically keep them in the stables. Just because when that Jacksonville pass rush, when they are pinning their ears back and they're just basically bum rushing the offensive line to get to the quarterback, the Jags got some good pass rushers. I mean, we even saw that against the Titans last week where they were able to get to Josh Dobbs effectively. And they ended up getting the strip sack that eventually led to the game-winning touchdown for them last week. I think, what's his name? Josh Allen, not the quarterback in Buffalo. Josh Allen, the defensive player in Jacksonville.
From Kentucky or something.
Yeah, he scooped and scored it. It wasn't even really a scoop. It just kind of like bounced into like his like midsection, and he just ran with it for a touchdown. But overall, I do think this is going to be a relatively close game. And it's just, I don't know what it is with this game in particular, why I think it's going to be lower scoring. I think it's more just because I think both quarterbacks are going to relatively struggle just because of the stage that they're on. They're not accustomed to this. Even though that Justin and Trevor have the capabilities of putting up, 300, 350 yards passing. And trust me, I would love a game like that to happen. I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis on defense for both teams here. And I wouldn't be surprised if both quarterbacks relatively struggle. If it's not the case, though, then great. Then we're in a shootout and, then it's like maybe like 34-31 when it's all said and done. I would love that too. But I got this gut feeling. I think it's going to be more of a grind. But I think the Chargers are going to make just enough plays to get by Jacksonville in this one. Despite the fact that Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning head coach. This is a completely different team than what he had with the Eagles a couple years ago. When you look back to that Eagles team that he had at his disposal, there were a lot of veterans on that team. It was a much more well-rounded group. When it comes to Jacksonville, Jacksonville's a young team. And I think there's a lot more potential for them in the next couple of years. But I think they're going to have to basically go through some bumps in the road along the way. And I think for Jacksonville, this is going to be one of the bumps along the way. There's going to be some growing pains with them. And I think this is going to be one of those moments where I think they're going to have to just kind of roll with the punches until they really get moving with Trevor at the helm and Doug leading the way at the head coaching spot. But Kev, we still got 4 more games to get to. Do you want to take the next 2?
Yeah, man, I got you. I was literally about to suggest the same thing. This game, it's different for me. Tua Tagovailoa has been ruled out, and we're getting into the Dolphins going into the Bills game. The Bills have all of the emotional roller coaster, all of the emotional support with everything that's happened over the course of the last few weeks with Damar Hamlin. Shout out to him. He's been released from the Buffalo hospital. He's going to be doing rehab and all these different things at home and with the Bills. So, I mean, thank God he's well and he is back home where he belongs. So shout out to the medical staff in Cincinnati, in Buffalo. Big kudos to that. But again, in terms of the playoff aspects of it, Tua's been ruled out. He hasn't cleared concussion protocol here. We don't know about the status of Teddy Bridgewater. It looks like Skylar Thompson is going to be starting for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are riddled with their own injuries, own inconsistencies. Apparently, Mike McDaniels is on the hot seat. If they don't win, he might get fired. There's just so many narratives going into this, and it doesn't make sense. This game is just overly complicated for no reason. So without Tua and Teddy going up against one of the best teams in the NFL, Kyle, I'm going to kick this one to you first. What kind of outcome do you think this is going to be? Is this going to be a blowout, or is this going to be one of those embarrassing games the Dolphins shouldn't even show up to?
I think the Bills are going to just destroy them in this game. I think this has the potential to be a 3-touchdown win for the Bills here. And it's simply just because we're talking about Skylar Thompson. We're not even talking Teddy Bridgewater. We're talking Skylar Thompson. And look, I mean, you make it to an NFL roster, you got to be somewhat decent to be able to make it. But going up against that Bills defense, good luck. I just don't see that happening in any way, shape, or form. Just to kind of put things in perspective, when we looked at the Dolphins last week, the Dolphins basically had to scrape for the last wild card spot to get into the playoffs in the AFC. They scored 11 points. Like the score between the Dolphins and the Jets last week was 11-6. That's something that you would see particularly in a baseball game. You would see a score like that in baseball every now and then. And the fact that Skylar Thompson really wasn't able to generate any sort of consistent offense with the Dolphins in that game against the Jets, albeit the Jets have a pretty stingy defense, it's not a good look going up against Buffalo. And Buffalo has one of the best defenses in the NFL. And Buffalo's coming off of a huge emotional high, getting that big win at home against the Patriots last week. And I think that game for the Bills kind of settled them based off of how the Damar Hamlin situation was going prior to that game. And I think now that they got those jitters and they got a lot of those butterflies out of their system from the Damar Hamlin situation, I think that the Bills are really primed for a potential Super Bowl run here. Kevin and I picked them as our Super Bowl pick this year, and I think they have a real good chance to make that happen, and it would start with a win over the Dolphins. When I look at the Bills from top to bottom, offensively, defensively, I think they have the advantage over the Dolphins. And I think in this game, I think this is going to be a typical Josh Allen-led performance from the Bills offense. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Allen throws the ball 35 to 40 times. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs the ball 5 to 10 times and probably gets somewhere around 50 to 75 yards. He does a great job extending plays with his feet, picking up first downs for the Bills offense. And look, when you have guys to throw to like Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox, you got plenty of targets at your disposal to work with. And I think they're going to be able to exploit that Dolphins defense pretty significantly in this game. And I just think that Dolphins defense is going to be out there on the field way too long because Skylar Thompson is not going to generate really any sort of consistent movement for that Miami offense. And you factor that in, you factor the time possession element into this game. I think the Bills are going to be heavily favored with the time possession in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills have 35 minutes to 38 minutes of time in possession compared to maybe 20 to 25 minutes with the Dolphins here. I just don't really see the Dolphins being able to overcome their quarterback issue with Tua not being able to play because he hasn't cleared concussion protocol. So as far as I see it with this game, I got the Bills winning this one big. I think the Bills get out to an early lead. I think they probably force a turnover two off of Skylar Thompson, and I think that just compounds the issues for Miami moving forward. And I think there's a very good chance that we could actually see Josh Allen on the bench resting late in the fourth quarter because I think the margin of their lead is going to be so wide that they don't need him late in the fourth quarter, and they can basically preserve him and some of their other starters potentially going into a divisional game in that scenario. So as far as I see it, I got the Bills winning this one big. I think the Bills put up probably 31 to 34 points in this game. I think the Dolphins are probably lucky to crack 17. So as far as I see it, I think this is going to be like a 31 to 14 score. I think the Bills win this one big. And to me, this is the closest thing as a lock for where we are in this point in the season. Typically, a lot of these games can be a lot more competitive. This is not going to be that. So the Bills win this one big, and they will advance to the AFC divisional round. So, Charlie, I'll kick this one to you from here.
Yeah, I don't see really any hope. It's tough. I'm down here in Miami, so you have a lot of the hope for the team, but it's just once Tua went out back at the Cincinnati game, like it just kind of deflated the season. Since then, they lost to the Chargers, they lost to the Niners, they lost to so many teams that just ripped them apart, just to expose their offense, even when Tua was in. Like, it just, I think this is going to be one of those big balloon, letting the air out slowly and just weaseling out at the end of the year. I don't think Mike McDaniel's an issue at all. I hope, like what Kevin said, I hope that doesn't happen. He's a good coach. I think he great mind, so I hope that he stays and they don't do something crazy because their owner is very old and really wants to win. So, but yeah, the Bills are emotionally high. Their offense is finally clicking again. They around the middle of the season they started getting a run game going, and if they have a run game going, whether it's with Josh Allen or with their like 3 running backs now, it just I don't mean to sound so like apocalyptic about this, but it just I don't see this game being within 2 scores. Like if I had to put a number on it, maybe like 13, 2 field goals and a score for the Dolphins, and like 30, 35. Like I think it could easily just be ugly, quick, and a blowout. The only way that it could be any sort of a competitive game is if Dolphins pass rush gets home, but then they have to get Josh Allen to the ground. Like it just, I don't have much hope for this game. This will probably be this and that Seattle game are probably going to be the worst 2 games of the weekend.
Okay, the floor is yours.
I mean, I have to say this with a heavy heart because my little brother is the biggest Dolphins fan I know. Has been since he was a little kid. And again, we are born and raised native New Yorkers. So him picking the Dolphins and then eventually moving to Florida could not have been a better situation for him. But this is going to be probably, I'm calling it right now, this is going to be one of the biggest blowouts in postseason history. There is nothing that is going to keep me away from saying that because they are on their 3rd string quarterback. They are facing one of the best offenses in the league, an MVP candidate, and one of the better defenses in the league at home in Buffalo in January. And let's not front. It's going to be pretty fucking cold. So we're talking about every single element that goes into a football game. Depth, defense, offense, weather, spiritual aura. Like there is nothing on Miami's side. They're deflated without their first 2 quarterback options. And again, like I said, Buffalo is still riding that play for DeMar hype. They're in the postseason. They're at the 2 seed. They have everything going for them in every facet of the word. Better special teams, better running backs, better quarterback. You can make the argument of Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. Obviously, one is better than the other at other things, but without Tua, without Teddy, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are not going to be utilized to the fullest extent. Mike McDaniels is going to be very, very limited to what he can do because Skyler is not Tua. Skyler is not accurate like Tua. He's not going to be able to distribute the ball like Tua. And for whatever reason, they know how to run the football very well when they want to with Mostert and Wilson, and yet they don't run the football as consistently as they should. You should lean on the run game to give your quarterback a break, to create play action, to keep the ball away from Josh Allen. But Miami likes to pass. And like Kyle said, yes, the Jets defense is stingy. You played Joe Flacco last week, and you literally won by 5 points. You're playing Josh Allen. This is bro. It's not even a fathomable comparison. This could easily be a 35-point blowout by halftime because of the dynamic capabilities of this Buffalo offense. Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are the best wide receiver tandem over the course of the last 3 seasons. Kyle and I already talked about this. Zach Moss, that was traded for Nyheim Hines, is turning out to be an incredible acquisition as of last week with the 2 kickoff returns. So now special teams is riding a high. Then you go and you talk about Dalvin Cook's little brother, James Cook, and Devin Singletary are playing great football at a high capacity for the running back committee that's over there. Every facet of the offense is moving at the highest capability possible at the perfect time in the postseason. I'm sorry. Xavier Howard's not playing well. Bradley Chubb is in and out of the lineup with injury. I mean, Armstead, the left tackle that they paid all this money to from the Saints, he's been hurt. There's no hope. I'm sorry to all Dolphins fans. The fact that you got in this playoff is a miracle in and of itself. And the only person you have to blame is yourselves. There were too many games that you had the opportunity to win early on, and you just didn't capitalize. And then when Tua went out and came back, you played a couple good teams, like Charlie said, and you were exposed. That is 1,000% on you. You either weren't prepared or you underperformed, or both, because clearly you were not ready for the opponents that you faced, and you're not going to be ready for Buffalo in the playoffs. This is going to be short and sweet. This game's over by halftime, without a doubt. Buffalo routs them.
They actually jump-started the Chargers defense. That was the first time the Chargers defense looked competent all year, and since then they've been good. Yeah, it's
You got to start from somewhere, right?
Charlie said, clear.
well, they that offense looked inept, and then since then, I'm like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah, it's just, Kev, you really have it as like one of the worst blowouts in NFL playoff history.
Dude, you have to. You have to. I have no faith Skylar Thompson even scores a touchdown. I don't. Unless Josh throws a turnover and they're in the red zone. I have no faith that they can drive the field from the kickoff, from the 25-yard line, and drive it down the field. I have no faith.
That's the preseason player of the year there you're talking about, Bud.
Sorry.
It's rough around these streets.
I can't, bro. I just can't. I have no faith.
I mean, the Dolphins defense better show up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, okay.
Because if they don't, yeah, it's over. I will say the only thing, like you said, Kevin, I think the only thing that keeps the Dolphins in it is if they force turnovers against Josh Allen. And I will say, Josh Allen's been turnover prone this year.
Correct.
I mean, we even saw a scenario last week where the Bills are in the red zone, trying to get some points late in the first half. Pass rush gets home for the Patriots, throws Josh off of his feet, basically throws a layup pass to Devin McCourty. And, those were points that, obviously the Bills won that game. That game wasn't dictated by that interception just because the Bills came out on fire in the second half and they didn't skip a beat. But overall, there's still plays for that Dolphins defense to be had against Josh Allen if that pass rush, I'm not even saying gets home, if they can just force pressures to get Josh to throw an errant pass, maybe that secondary can make some plays to maybe get a tip pass, maybe get an interception. And I will say, even when it comes to the Bills running back committee, they have been known to fumble the ball at times. Last week was another example where I believe Devin Singletary, on their own side of the field, inside their own 20, fumbled it. Patriots pounced on it, and fortunately for the Bills only gave up 3 points in that exchange there. But the one thing that could bite the Bills in the ass is their turnover issues, and they have been more prevalent this year compared to years past. And I think if you're looking at it from a Dolphins fan perspective, I think that's the only hope that you have, because offensively, it ain't happening. I can tell you that right now. They're going to be lucky to score 14 to 17 points. Like you said, Kev, they scored 11. 11. Kev, there were times where baseball teams scored more points than that or got more runs than that. Yeah. So it's going to be rough for Miami.
The only thing done wrong all year is give their fans hope. As a Chargers fan, I know that feeling far too well. Hope is the devil in sports.
They made it. They made it here. I mean, does that count for something? They made it.
No,
it does not count.
I mean, at the beginning of the year, like I said, being in Miami, they were telling that they might as well have been the Patriots dynasty happening of just, we got this. It's a lock. We got Tyreek Hill. Like, we're good. Mike McDaniels, he's gonna make this work. Blah 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 blah. And then they started rolling, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I told you, bro. Like, we got this. It's literally like done." And yeah, all it took was a few injuries, which, welcome to the Chargers' life, to unravel everything.
Yeah, and this whole idea that Mike McDaniel should be fired after one season as a head coach.
Ludicrous. It's ludicrous.
With all the injuries that they've had this year, I mean, Tua got hurt twice, has 2 concussions this year alone. And
And maybe 3.
Yeah, potentially 3. I mean,
Yeah.
and I will say, I will give Mike McDaniel some credit. I think he understands the situation with Tua. He's playing the long game. He's not like, I think when it comes to this year specifically, I think he's like, look, more than likely, he's not going to say it publicly. I think he knows deep down they're going to get their shit rocked against the Bills. But
Derek Carr available.
Derek Carr.
I'd take Derek Carr on that offense in a heartbeat.
That'd be fun watching Derek Carr and Tyreek Hill. That'd be fun.
Remember the Jets? Heartbeat.
Good point.
That Derek Carr that would be interesting in Miami. That would be very interesting.
I think like since we're on that topic,
they're still rolling with Tua though.
Since we're on that topic, Tua got to take care of himself, man. Those concussions are not good, dude. We're talking 2 or 3 in a season, and people are talking about Tua's got to play for their hopes and dreams, bro. This is a man's life. Did we not just talk about DeMar? Like, I understand it's severely different, but Tua's a husband. He wants to be a father. Like, he needs to be present and functional in his life. Like, football is a game. If these concussions persist, that could change his life forever. So people need to calm down and realize he needs time to heal, evaluate all these things. So all the Miami fans that I've heard saying, oh, Tua's soft. Dude, you go get knocked down by a 350-pound lineman and get up not knowing where the hell you are 3 or 4 times in the game. Tell me if you're going to be fine with that. So I think people need to chill, man. I don't know what's going to happen with him in the offseason. They've been linked to Lamar Jackson with him being a native from Fort Lauderdale, from Florida. They've been linked to a bunch of different things. I mean, Derek Carr is probably going to get cut because they're asking for probably a first-round pick, if not 2. No one's trading that with the salary that he's owed, which is $40 million a year. Mm-hmm. So more than likely, the Dolphins are going to be able to make a run at him. It's just a matter of, are they going to spend their capital on him or are they going to reinvest in Tua? There's a lot of question marks in Miami in the offseason for sure.
Do you think that they're going to cut bait with Tua?
No.
If it comes down to Mike McDaniels or Tua, if I'm being honest, Tua's track history is too much, man. He's got to go. I can't. Like we tried. You were injured in your rookie year. You were injured this year. I can't continue to invest in someone that has a new injury every single season. I'm sorry.
So what I would expect them to do is bring in Teddy's fine, kind of like Jacoby Brissett. Like they're fine. Andy Dalton, they're fine. Like they can be a kind of like best case
bridge,
worst case scenario.
I think I have a good backup.
And if you have to ride them for a year, it's fine. Like you might be able to squeak into the playoffs if your team's good enough, but like they should bring in a competitive somebody. Keep Tua. Just I don't know what to do with the contract because he's all those him, Burrow, and Herbert all have contract years, right? They have like the rookie extension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have their 5th-year option. I think. I don't know if Miami picked it up though.
But I think next year would be.
That'll be his 4th year because they were drafted in the COVID year, right? 2020.
Yeah, next year will be 4th. But I don't know what to do with him. I would keep him, but you got to bring someone else in. That's not Teddy or Skylar Thompson.
Do you draft somebody?
You got to bring a competent person in that's like a mid-tier quarterback.
Do you draft somebody, though, is the question.
I don't think so.
There's some good quarterbacks in this draft. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami was willing to offload some of their assets, maybe get rid of Xavier Howard on draft day, unload that contract, get a couple picks.
Maybe. Or do you think they go after somebody like Lamar?
I mean, dude, you're already focused on financials. You just gave Bradley Chubb a bag. You gave Xavier Howard a bag. You gave Tyreek Hill a bag. Lamar wants a fully guaranteed contract. I think Miami would be stupid to go after Lamar after all of the people they have guaranteed money owed to in the next couple of years. It's suicide.
And he's injury prone too.
That's what I'm saying. And Waddle's going to be due up for a contract in the next year or 2 as well. Dude, you just gave Armstead a bag at left tackle. Well, dude, Miami needs to be smart and figure out how to offload these deals, not be signing one of the biggest contracts in NFL history.
It seems as if like we're more like the way that we're kind of setting it up is like maybe their best case forward here, or their best path forward here is to stick with Tua. despite all the concussion issues. Unless they were to like completely just pivot and make a decision to get rid of Tua, but it's like, okay, well, what's the backup plan going to be?
They're still going to have to pay him soon, regardless.
No, you don't, because you can decline the 5th-year option. He's a free agent. You're not obliged anymore. It's not like the old days.
I'm saying, like, even if you're keeping Tua around, say he does, because this year he played good up until those concussions. So say he plays good again next year. Maybe he has like an ankle injury, whatever, something like minor that's just a setback, but he's still playing good. What do you do that 5th year?
You pick it. I mean, you pick. So the thing is with first round picks, the further the years go on, obviously you're making a little bit more money as the years progress. I think the 5th-year option, depending on your actual contract, is going to be the most expensive year because that's the extended portion of you being a first round pick.
Depends on the
it
depends on the
exactly.
It depends.
Right. And with him being a top 5 pick, because he was number 5, I would assume that 5th year is probably pretty hefty because he's done relatively well. If I'm Miami and I'm the front office, right? I'm listening to offers this season. Just listening because the draft class is so stacked quarterback wise. I'm just listening. If I don't get anything relatively good, Tua comes back. We make another run at it, right? Keep Mike McDaniels, run it up. If he does well, if he kills it, I'm trading him that offseason. You got to ride high. Sell while the iron's hot. Capitalize. You have to pay him regardless the next season. You accept the 5th year or you pay him an extension. Nowadays, with the average of quarterback salaries being $30+ million a year, someone who's injury prone, you're going to have to pay. Trade him, cut him loose, draft somebody else.
Now,
you will get capital for somebody like that.
Trading him's interesting. I could see that. I couldn't see them just like waiving him or anything like that, or like
if you pick up the 5th year, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle. If you pick up the 5th year and you trade him, that means that team is obliged to pay him a portion of that 5th year, correct?
I believe so.
So pick up, Miami will take a piece of that, whether that's 50 to 60% of it, get draft capital back for him, and you go and you pay that to somebody else or you draft somebody else.
Depends on the split.
Right.
It would depend on the split because I mean, we've seen teams take a majority of that 5th year option.
Yeah, I mean, look at Roquan Smith. The freaking the Bears took the majority of that hit.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, they gave him back. Yeah, would you take
the Ravens did? But what?
Would you take Tua on the Colts?
No, we have the equivalent of a high school football team for an offensive line. So Tua would probably be neurologically permanently damaged if he played for the Colts.
Your players are good. They just have played bad this year.
Right. Do you take a gamble on someone who's already injury prone with a bad offensive line? That just sounds like a formula for disaster, personally.
That's a fair point.
I can't think of a quarterback opening that you could trade Tua to that has a good line.
You can make no, Tampa's offensive line is dog shit this year.
But that's what I'm saying.
You can maybe go with the route Tennessee.
I was
Ryan
just
Tannehill's
thinking,
obviously not working.
Just thinking Tennessee.
Yeah,
Ryan Tannehill's not panning out. Malik Willis, it would be a competition. I mean, you can say, hey, we drafted you in the 3rd round. We're bringing in a vet. You know, it would work.
I don't even think Malik's the guy. I mean, they started.
Dude, he's ass.
I mean, they started Josh Dobbs in their biggest game of the year that last week.
He's ass.
You're talking about Josh?
Like he played. No. Both of them are ass. He played at Liberty. Who the fuck plays Liberty? He's ass. Another hype video. Oh, he did this at his pro day. Oh, he could throw 75 yards on a whim. Congratulations, you fucking suck. Like, cut it out. I hate these quarterbacks to come out of these lower conference fucking schools and you have a good pro day or a good fucking senior bowl and you're like, oh, get the fuck out of here, bro. Get out of here, bro. BYU quarterback, fucking Liberty, North Dakota State, whatever the fuck, all these random ass schools, bro. Kiss my ass, bro. If you're not coming out of SEC, Big 12, your ass.
Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate before he tore his ACL with the Eagles.
And a lot of people nowadays are starting to say that was the system with Peterson and the offense that he had around him. It worked. League's best offensive line, one of the better defenses in the league, and Nick Foles led them. And what has Nick Foles done outside of Philadelphia? Dick. It was the system. Carson Wentz has been on 2 teams since then. Ass.
Do you think Josh Allen ruined that the mindset of those small schools when they used to not get any looks for like, oh yeah, he's talented, but he went to Wyoming. But
So Josh Allen was a different
look,
breed from what I could understand because of one, he actually had arm strength that he displayed in game, not in pro days, with no defense. And
What do you-
Josh Allen had the physical stature
Yep.
with that 6'6" frame, 6'7" frame, and he ran like
He's
a
not
4'6" 40.
He's not 6'7".
Dude,
But
I
he-
said 6'5", 6'6".
You said
But
6'7".
Josh
he's
Allen's
the-
huge. He's
he's
huge.
the least
Oh, he's a
accurate.
big dude.
He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college, like ever.
Yeah, I think he was like a 54. I didn't say it was accurate. I'm saying the potential was there.
Yeah.
And I think I think the ups outruled the cons because if it didn't work, it didn't work. I mean, for God's sakes, Josh Rosen was taken in that draft class too. We don't know how the fuck that happened, how that panned out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh landed in a good system with Sean McDermott as the
Agreed.
OC,
Agreed.
and head
Fit.
coach. It's just I think that was a good overall fit, and not only that, I mean, they were able to bring in some pretty good talent to surround himself with. So I think overall, I think Josh really got a good deal, and not only that, the Bills have a good defense. So when you factor all those pieces together, Josh really
And Josh has improved.
except this year with the turnovers. That's the only thing that he's really kind of lagged behind. But I mean,
Agreed.
Kev, we talked about this before. Peyton and Brady have had years in their past, like when they were first kind of coming up, where they threw 13, 14, 15 interceptions. Like,
Yep.
it happens. Like, there's adjustments that happen all the time with some of these younger quarterbacks. And honestly, sometimes you could use those seasons as learning experiences. I know Brady did. Because, I mean, Brady, like 2004, 2005, was not the quarterback he was when he was in 2007, where he threw 50 touchdowns and only threw 8 interceptions. So I mean, there were years where he threw 14, 15 interceptions. It happened. And if Josh is going through the same
everybody's
thing,
got off years.
But
yeah, I mean, but we have so much more to go to. I think we went off on such a tangent, Charlie. This is what happens. It whoosh.
That was fun though.
Down the rabbit hole.
That was fun.
So the next game is going to be a game that is conflicting for me specifically. As a native New Yorker, as somebody who cheers for the New York Giants on a regular basis just because you want to see your home team do good. They're going up against probably the frauds of the postseason, or should I say frauds of the NFL season in the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have been very inconsistent over the last couple of weeks. The Giants have found a way to turn it around. Brian Daboll has turned around this franchise. They have found ways to get it done, despite having Daniel Jones as a quarterback. Believe it or not, he actually had a pretty good season. Saquon Barkley's healthy. And again, I say it again, despite having all the injuries to the wide receiver core, here they are as a 6th seed in the playoffs. So, Charlie, I'm going to pose this one to you, man. Who do you have coming out of this 3-6 matchup this weekend?
It's the 4:00 game, right?
Yes, 4:30.
Yeah, I got the Vikings. As long as it's not night, Kirk Cousins.
I love it.
The second the lights come on, it's over. So no, I'll take. If they ride Dalvin Cook and basically let him be the workhorse of their team, I know the Giants' D-line is massive, but if they can just ride him and get that going just a little bit, just keep feeding him the ball and just keep going. No one can cover Justin Jefferson. Like the best like I said, Mike Williams earlier, but he's the Randy Moss 2.0 freak of nature, like just go up and get any ball. Him and Hopkins are probably the two best jump ball receivers in the game, and I guess Mike Williams would probably be right behind them. Hawkinson is a monster. Like at any point in time, you always have Hawkinson roaming around somewhere in the secondary. Like I don't see the Giants offense just running the ball the entire game. I know that the Vikings have a horrible defense, but they're just gonna. I have a feeling it's gonna be kind of like the Colts game. I'm sorry to bring that up, but
that fucking hurt. That hurt. That wasn't needed. Kyle, get him off.
No, I'm gonna let him roll with it. He's in the game right now, Kev.
I have a feeling it's gonna be like that, where it's just they kind of look meh. They're running the ball a lot. It's just kind of slowly grinding away. And then the Giants have to start playing offense to try to do anything. And they'll probably be it'll probably be like a 1-score game, Giants up, and then the floodgates will come because that offense will stop moving. Like you can't just ride Saquon and running behind Daniel Jones. Like Slayton isn't going to do it as a receiver. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a good game. This is probably this and that. Niners. Actually, there's a lot of bad games this weekend. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's just bad matchups. Not going to be fun. This is going to be like a like 20-21 game or something like that. 2024. It's going to be not good. Just kind of an average NFL game. It's not going to even feel like a playoff game. Kirk Cousins is probably going to throw 2 picks. It's going to be like 250 yards, 2 picks, and somehow they score 4 touchdowns.
Kev, I'm gonna let you take it. I know you got a little bit hurt by that Colts comment.
Listen, it's fine. The Chargers have broken my heart growing up way more times than I can count with
Colts?
Cromartie and yeah,
that's right.
with oh my God, they've crushed ourselves. Darren Sproles, Antonio Cromartie, LaDainian Thomas and Phillip Rivers. They're not my favorite bunch of people growing up in the early 2000s. But let's just get into this game. So I actually have the Giants winning this game. I think with the combination of Minnesota's offensive line playing absolutely atrocious the second half of the season, Minnesota's defense being the worst defense in the postseason, and the offense's incapability of being able to get into a consistent rhythm over the course of the last few weeks is going to give the Giants opportunities. This defense is hungry. This defense is young. They have a good pass rush. Their corners are solid. I agree with Charlie. I don't think anybody can necessarily cover Justin Jefferson except for Jair Alexander, who decided to rob me of my fantasy football championship. And again, Jair, you owe me money, man. 2 points, bro. Really? You couldn't let him get a couple fucking points. Anyway, sorry. That's just it. I'm not going to forgive him for that. I don't know, man. I think Daniel Jones has done enough this year to prove to me that he is not going to win you a game with his arm, but his capabilities and the play calling of Dable shows that whether he's on the ground, dipping and diving to, the short, the flat, whatever he's got to do, lean on Saquon for 25 to 30 rushing attempts. It's not going to be the cleanest game in the world. It's not going to be the most exciting game in the world, similar to what Charlie said. But I think they get it done because I think they are more of a gritty, more dominant football team. I think they want it more. I think that they're ready for the adversity. I think that Daniel Jones is tired of the scrutiny. And Saquon's been itching to have himself a pretty big game. He hasn't had one in the last few weeks as well. So I think that he's going to be able to bust a couple big runs out just because of Minnesota's defense being as bad as it is. I think where this can get out of hand is if you put the ball into Daniel Jones's hands too much. Similar to what I said about the Chargers game. If you have Daniel Jones throwing this ball 30, 35, even 40 times, this could get out of hand, and Minnesota's defense with Pat Peterson could find a way to get creative. Daniel Jones has been known in his career to turn the ball over pretty frequently, which he has not turned it over a lot this year. But this is also his first postseason game, so I think that the veteran in Kirk Cousins, who has played in a multitude of postseason games, could have that advantage and find a way to rally and bounce back. But they're going to have to run that offense like Charlie had stated with Dalvin Cook and kind of keep that ball away from the Giants. But I don't know. I think this is going to be a weird one. I think this is going to be 28-24, 24-21, something like that. But I got the G-Men coming out with the upset for sure in Minnesota.
Kev, I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one, but I've said this time and time before with the Vikings. I don't have a lot of faith with them. And we have seen these two teams play each other already this year. They played on Christmas Eve. And, when we look at that game in particular, the Giants' offense was able to effectively move the ball up and down the field against the Vikings' defense. They almost had 450 yards of total offense against the Vikings. The only thing that hurt the Giants in that game was that they turned the ball over twice to the Vikings. One was an interception. They also lost a fumble as well, and the Vikings were able to cash in on those turnovers. Now, going into this game, I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw in the first matchup. I think it's going to be a very poorly played defensive game for both teams here, simply just because when I look at Kirk Cousins and that Vikings offense, Charlie, like you said, this game is not a primetime game, so maybe we're going to see a better version of Kirk Cousins. Granted, it's not the 1 o'clock slot. I know that that's like his primetime slot where he just goes bonkers. But in this 425 slot, 430 slot, whatever it is, I think he'll play pretty well against the Giants defense. And that's despite the fact that the Giants have a pretty stingy defense. I mean, the Giants damn near beat the Eagles last week. That could have potentially thrown the entire NFC into shambles had the Eagles lost that game. So going into this game, I think defensively, I think the Giants will be able to play pretty well against that Vikings um, offense at times. It's just I think there are going to be moments where I think Kirk is going to take some deep shots, and I think Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and maybe even Adam Thielen are going to come up with some plays to really put that Giants defense on their heels. And I still wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings are still going to be able to move the ball effectively at times. And, maybe you throw in some times where the Giants defense steps up and makes some plays to get the Vikings offense off the field for a punt. But overall, I just don't have faith in Daniel Jones. I know he's going up against the Vikings defense, and they're one of the worst defenses. They're one of the worst defenses in the playoffs right now. But until Daniel Jones proves to me that he could be a winning quarterback in a playoff scenario, which we haven't seen up until this point, I just don't have a lot of faith in him. Maybe this is a game where the Giants lean on Saquon Barkley more than Daniel, simply just because Saquon could have a really big game in the ground game for New York, where he could tear off 100 to 125 yards and maybe get a touchdown or two. I think what this game is going to come down to is who's going to make the first mistake. And I'm more inclined to believe, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, I think it's going to be Daniel Jones over Kirk Cousins. I know Kirk Cousins has had plenty of mistakes in his past when it comes to the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if he makes mistakes in this game as well. It's just I think Daniel Jones will make the first mistake, and I think it's going to put them behind the eight ball, and I think that Giants offense is going to try to get back into the game by just simply passing the ball too much, like Kevin had just outlined a couple minutes ago. And I think they're going to dig themselves in a hole. I think they're going to turn the ball over a couple times against this Vikings defense. They already did it once against the Giants, where the Vikings defense was able to force some turnovers, multiple ones in that first matchup. And I think they will be able to do it again. But to me, this is going to be a very competitive game. I think this is going to be a decent scoring game. I think this is going to be very similar to the first matchup where we saw a 27-24 score in favor of the Vikings the first time around. Honestly, I'm going to pretty much put a similar type of score. I think they win 24-21 over the Giants here. I think Kirk Cousins does enough against the Giants defense. And I think overall, the Vikings do just enough to get by the Giants in this one. But like I said, you guys, I just don't have a lot of faith with the Vikings here. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'm going with the Vikings. This is like a 51-49 split for me. I'm going with the Vikings on this one. That's just how I see it.
A TikTok game. And by that, I mean it's going to be a game where when the Giants have the ball, you just tune out to TikTok. And then you see, oh, Kirk Cousins got the ball again. All right, back to the game. And then Kirk Cousins throws a pick back to TikTok because this is one of the worst defenses in the league against one of the worst offenses in the league. Just not good football on one side of the ball. And then you have a really young, good defense against a Showtime, inconsistent, but a Showtime offense. So it's going to be fun for half the game.
I mean, it is true that the Giants do have one of the more subpar offenses in the league, unless they're playing the Colts. Then they look like world beaters. I just don't know what it is.
Oh, these are just shots today, right?
The score,
Kyle, aren't we both playing fucking golf at the same time? I'm just saying.
I mean, the score speaks for itself, Kev. It was 38-10. I mean,
right. No, it was great. Kayvon Thibodeau out here doing snow angels while Nick Foles has no idea where the fuck he is. But yeah, totally fine. Anyway,
4 touchdown loss, my guy. Like,
yeah. No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Me and you were playing golf at the same time. Remember that. This next one, Kyle, I'm gonna need you to kick this one to me because it's my dog.
All right, you ready? You sure?
Oh, I'm always ready.
All right. But with that said, we are going to transition to an AFC North battle that's going to take place in the AFC wild card this weekend. I know Kevin's chomping at the bit to talk about his boy Joseph Burrow.
Yes, sir.
But just to kind of give you guys a setup with this game, it's going to feature the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Ravens were able to get the 6th seed in the AFC wildcard standings The Bengals won the AFC North pretty convincingly, but the Ravens were able to make a playoff spot. The Ravens have really been battling some injuries over the last couple of weeks. Lamar Jackson's status is up in the air, but he's kind of leaning to more likely not to play in this game.
I think they ruled him out. He said in a statement today, the knee isn't stable. He
Yeah.
can't play.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to. I mean, they're either gonna have to look at Tyler Huntley or they're gonna have to focus on a third string. So things are looking pretty dire with Baltimore going into this game. And then when you kick it to Cincinnati, Cincinnati's been one of the best teams in the NFL in the second half of the season. Joe Burrow's looked like that very similar quarterback that we saw last year that led the Bengals to a Super Bowl appearance against the Rams last year. And, with this being a home game for the Bengals, going up against a pretty battered Ravens team offensively, this has the potential to get ugly pretty quickly. So, Kev, I'm going to quick get this one to you since this is your boy. Kev, we got the Ravens going up against the Bengals in Cincinnati in this AFC wildcard matchup. Who do you think is going to come out on top and why?
So normally I would say it's a blowout, but for the sake of this being a divisional matchup and Baltimore having one of the better defenses in the second half of the year, I will say that this game will be competitive. I think that people are overcompensating for the fact that Lamar will not be available. Tyler Huntley is not the worst backup in the world. He is mobile. He can hit his open receivers, but the key word is receivers. Baltimore does not have the league's best offense by any means, and that is going to be the hardest part, is finding people to get open, hitting receivers and finding ways to move the ball downfield without having to rely on your run game. And when you put the ball in Joe's hands, you have the capability to score 30 to 40 points because you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, you obviously have Tyler Boyd, and of course you have Joe Mixon in the backfield and Hayden Hurst at the tight end position. Like, this offense just looks to be competitive. This offense looks to be one of the best in the league. And for that sake, I will say that Cincinnati wins this game by 7 to 10 points. Lamar not being there is pivotal. He is a dynamic game changer. He is probably one of the most difficult quarterbacks to prepare for. I mean, Jalen Ramsey said it himself on the Shop podcast, on a couple of other podcasts. That is just an impossible quarterback to prep for, because there's nobody that can replicate what he does on the field in terms of in practice. There's not, you can practice against Josh Allen, you can practice against Patrick Mahomes. They're not Lamar Jackson. He is a different dynamic. He's a different type of player. So with him not being on the field, I give the advantage solely and completely to Cincinnati because their defense has been playing better as the year has gone on. But again, Roquan Smith getting a massive extension. Their pass rush has been able to get to the quarterback lately. If for whatever reason Cincinnati's offensive line decides not to show up like they did in all of last postseason, don't be surprised if this game could turn around and get ugly quickly, because if Joe's got no time, that offense isn't moving anywhere. We all know this offense lives and breathes with Joe Burrow's success. So again, I have Cincinnati winning comfortably, at least by 10, or excuse me, at least by 7, but it's all dependent upon this offensive line. That is the key. Whoever wins the line of scrimmage battle is going to win this game.
Charlie, I kick it to you from here.
Yeah, so I actually don't have much to say about this game since Lamar's not playing. It's just kind of the Tua effect with the Dolphins. Kind of puts the air out of the balloon for their offense. Like, so much is reliant on leaning on Lamar to open the field up. Actually, the word around the NFL of what they do for defensive coordinators to get prepared for that offense is they just stick their fastest running back or receiver out there to do play action and kind of do weird run scheme plays
to like simulate what Lamar does.
Yeah. So when that's not there, then that offense, are you going to lean on Dobbins to run the ball 40 times? You can't do that. Like, and Mark Andrews, he's the monster, the Bigfoot, but like, you got to get him the ball. Yeah, if they get down in the red zone, he's unstoppable, but you got to move the ball to get to the red zone. Like, I think that offense is too unique without Lamar, and I don't see them scoring much. I do think they're going to get a lot of pressure because Alex Kappa is actually hurt right now, the Bengals center. So that interior O-line is going to be a little rough, and Baltimore's front seven is just monsters. Like they're all beasts. So yeah, I think Roquan Smith will get in a little bit, and I think they'll have a lot of pressure on Joey B. And but I just don't see that mattering because I don't see the Ravens offense doing much. So yeah, if I had to pick a score, 28-10, like I don't see this being close, and I don't see it being that offense doing much. I do think they're going to get the ball a lot. I just think they're going to give it right back just with not moving the ball. It's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs.
Yeah, I think this is kind of similar to what we said about the upcoming matchup between the Bills and the Dolphins, where I think the Bills are just going to dominate the time of possession against a third string quarterback and Skylar Thompson when the Bills play against the Dolphins. And I think this is going to happen very similar to what we're going to see when the Bengals go up against the Ravens, just simply because, I mean, from a quarterback perspective, you're talking about either Tyler Huntley or Anthony Brown as your starting quarterback options for the Ravens. I mean, have you guys been watching what the Ravens have been putting up offensively for like the last month and a half? They haven't been able to crack.
I think it's been under 20
They
points over
haven't.
the last couple
They
weeks.
haven't cracked 20 points. I think in over a month and a half. I think it's probably been. If I were, I could look at the schedule a little bit later, but I don't think they scored 20 plus points since November. So it's been a long minute since we've seen really any sort of consistent rhythm from the Ravens offense. Obviously, I know Lamar's hurt, and that's the biggest impediment for them. But when it comes to the Bengals, I think the Bengals smacked the Ravens. And I understand that the Ravens have a pretty competent defense, and I think that's the only thing that's actually going to keep this game somewhat competitive early. But if that Ravens offense isn't getting anything consistently going in the first half, and mind you, these teams just played each other last week. So these teams are very familiar with each other. And I think when it comes to the Bengals are basically just going to follow suit with what they did last week. Whatever they did last week, it worked. I think as long as they just go out there and execute the game plan and not turn the ball over against that Ravens defense, I think they'll be fine. Because honestly, the Bengals could probably score 17 points in this game, and they'd probably win by about a touchdown. I just don't see the Bengals giving up 10, 15, 20 points to the Ravens here. That quarterback issue with the Ravens is too significant of a jump for me to really believe the Ravens have any sort of shot in this game. And like you said, Kev, you got Joe Burrow and all the options that he has at his disposal, like Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. I mean, you know the list. You just basically said it. I don't know how the Ravens are going to be able to contend with that with 60 minutes in the game. They may be able to do it at times where they slow down Joe Burrow a little bit, but there's just going to be too many opportunities for Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense to score points. And it's going to be because I don't think the Ravens offense is going to put more than 15 points on the board. So, to me, this game is going to be an absolute beatdown as far as I see it. I think the Bengals run away with this game. To me, this is probably going to be a 27-10 score. I don't have faith in the Ravens to score anything above 10 to 15 points. And it's honestly that simple of an analysis. I'll pretty much just leave it at that.
Hey, all I'm saying is if Alex Kappa's out, Lyle Collins is out, that's two backup players right there on that offensive line. We know Cincinnati started the season off really slow when it comes to protection. Now they have to basically start over in terms of signals, how they rely, how they communicate on that line. Kyle, you played the position. Backups at this time, but backups at this time of the year, it takes one misstep. Joe Burrow gets hurt. It's a bad sack. That's all I'm saying. This is a team that the last thing you need is an offensive line issue. Now, you have depth at receiver. You have good running backs. You have good pass rushers. All I'm saying is it takes one, oh shit, Joe gets whacked by Roquan. It's cracked up by freaking JPP. It takes one shot. We all know that better than anything, especially recently. So I'm just saying it's something to be mindful of because Joe Burrow took 70 combined sacks all of last season. We all know in reality, it takes one to knock you out of a game.
Okay.
So
let me make my point here about Joe. I have no problem I've got no issue with the Bengals offensive line issues because I look at it like this. If Joe Burrow can win a game against the Tennessee Titans where he was sacked 9 times and the Titans were the number 1 seed and the Bengals had to go on the road to win that game, I'm not worried. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, compared to what the Ravens have with their quarterbacks right now, Ryan Tannehill looks like a freaking Hall of Famer compared to these guys.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
that was also a game that Tannehill threw terrible picks
I
in.
understand that,
I
but
think he had like 2 or 3 interceptions.
yeah, he had the
And he threw
game.
that one when they were trying to drive to
He had,
end the game.
he had the game losing interception for them.
Yeah.
But even with that said, when you compare what Ryan Tannehill has done in his career compared to what Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown have done, I mean, it's a night and day difference. So for me,
Yeah.
when it comes to the Bengals and their offensive line issues, it doesn't really surprise me because that's been the main point of contention with them for the last 2 to 3 years because Joe's been getting killed back there. But do I see the Ravens defense holding Joe Burrow to 14 to 17 points? No. And I think it's simply just because what is that Ravens offense going to do?
Yeah.
And the Bengals have a pretty solid defense. So
They're good. Yeah, for
if,
sure.
if the Bengals can hold Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense of 24 points, mind you, the Chiefs have one of the best offenses in the NFL, and you're going up against a second and potentially third string quarterback who they just played last week and they won pretty convincingly. I'm not really concerned with the offensive line issues. I think it's something to monitor for sure. But to the point where I'm thinking that the Ravens actually have a shot to win this game, no shot. Like, to me, like 99 out of 100 times, the Bengals are going to win this game. And honestly, on the 100th one, I'd probably say the Bengals win that one too. I don't really see any pathway forward
Jesus.
for the Ravens to win this game. I just don't. Even
See,
with the offensive line issues. Kev, I fully understand it, but not this one.
I don't see it as that far of like a just like 100 or even 99 to 1. But like the only chance they have is if somehow Dobbins can get going and they just control the pace of the game, similar to what the Titans do. It's actually a great comp of a team. Just get that running game going and just hold the ball and don't let the Bengals get on the field. But I don't think their running game's that good to be able to do that. So it's just, yeah.
Just
Yeah,
that
we'll see.
quarterback
We'll
situation
see.
is dicey.
That is, it's not
dicey.
it's not a favorable situation for Baltimore at all. But then again, this next quarterback situation should be a little bit more interesting, and that's going to be the Monday night game that apparently I completely forgot about, and that is going to be the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Tampa to play Tom Brady and the Bucks. So Kyle, with this being your boy, and this is his third playoff appearance in 3 years with Tampa, how do you think this game is going to play out? Both teams have not been playing very well, and both quarterbacks haven't played their greatest football this season either.
Okay, I'm going with the Bucks on this one. And it's simply just because I think the Cowboys are set up for a collapse here. I think we saw it last week against the Commanders. I think we saw like the first sign of it. And now that Dallas has to go on the road to Tampa, I just don't think it's going to be in the cards for Dallas. I think Dallas is just going to find a way to do what they do best and screw things up like they always do in the playoffs. And it's going to be a first round exit like always. And here's the thing. And when it comes to the Buccaneers, my faith in them is not that high either. Just because the Bucs finished at a sub 500 record. And somebody had to win that NFC South. And fortunately for the Bucs, it happened to be them. But they've been inconsistent the entire year. And even against a team like Dallas early on in the year, when both these teams played each other in the first game of the year, the Bucs weren't really that impressive offensively. They only scored 19 points in that game. Their biggest win, as far as just a total unit perspective, was that their defense held Dallas to 3 points in that game. And I think that there's a similar scenario where I think that Bucs defense can play pretty solid football against the Cowboys. Now, I will say that these teams are a lot different than what we saw in week 1. I mean, and the Cowboys did finish with a better record, but I still believe that the Bucs defense is going to step up to limit this Cowboys offensive attack. I'm fully convinced of Dak Prescott probably throwing 1 or 2 interceptions in this game. I think there's a very good chance that Dallas could turn the ball over not twice, but potentially 3 times in this game to Tampa's defense, just because I think Tampa has the right players at the right times to make those types of plays. And watching the Cowboys last week against the Commanders and the way they lost that game, getting absolutely blown out in a game that somewhat had a little bit of significance for them had the Eagles lost. That is not the way that you want to go into the playoffs. And granted, I know the Bucs don't have a lot of momentum either in this game based off of how they finished the regular season, but I think just overall, with the Bucs offense showing a little bit of life in the last 2 weeks of the year, and the Cowboys defense not really playing up to snuff compared to what we saw in the first half of the season, I think the Buccaneers have a very good chance to win this game in a very close matchup. I don't think this is going to be a game where Brady's going to put up 400 yards passing and he throws 4 or 5 touchdowns. I just don't see that happening. I see this game being kind of similar to what we've seen with the Bucs all year. I think Brady will kind of be slow in the first half, pick it up in the second half, and may lead a game-winning drive at the end. That's really been a lot of the wins that the Bucs have picked up this year. They've done it in that manner. And when it comes to the Cowboys, I just see mistakes. I see penalties potentially holding them back in this game. So overall, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think when I just look at it from just each unit of both teams, I think even though that I think the Cowboys offense has the edge, I think they're going to make mistakes, and I think they're going to fall behind the 8 ball. And I think Tom and that Bucs offense are going to be able to do enough to get enough points against Dallas to get this win. And then when you combine the defensive efforts of both teams, I think the Bucs have a better defense, and I think the Bucs are going to show it by forcing multiple turnovers against Dallas. So if I had to put a score on this one, I think it's going to be relatively low scoring. I got the Bucs winning this one by the score of 23-20. I think it's going to be a field goal that's going to separate both of these teams, but the Bucs, in my mind, would advance to the divisional round, and the Cowboys will be sitting at home once again with their fans probably looking beside themselves. It's like, I can't believe this happened again. So, Kev, I'll kick this one to you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, man, I have no faith in Dallas. I can't sit here and try to defend them. I mean, the performance against Washington, Kyle already alluded to, was piss poor. It almost looked like they gave up. They looked lost. Dak Prescott is tied for the league in interceptions, and he missed 5 games this season. Ezekiel Elliott has not been able to get into a consistent rhythm. Tony Pollard has really emerged as the better back of the two, in my personal opinion. And then that defense has completely dissipated. They were one of the best defenses in the first half of the season. Micah Parsons was on a pace to what everybody said was have a Lawrence Taylor type of season. That was in like the first 3 games of the season. I think they needed to shut up early then, and I was proven correct now because their defense is abysmal. Outside of Trayvon Diggs, their secondary has been pretty mediocre as well. And I think that Tom Brady and the Bucs got hot at the right time. We all know that they rested their starters at the end of the season for that final game. Mike Evans, Godwin, Tom Brady all seem to be on the same page. The issue for me is going to be the Buccaneers need to establish the run game. They need to run the football effectively. To win NFL playoff games, you need to have a good run game, a solid defense, and obviously a quarterback. Tampa's got 2 of the 3. If Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White can get it going early, I truly and honestly believe that they can upset Dallas. And I know that a lot of people aren't supposed to say upset because Tampa's technically the home team here, but everybody says Dallas is better, their offense is better, yada, yada, yada. People are failing to realize that Dallas has not been in any meaningful postseason football since that controversial Dez Bryant catch in the playoffs a few years ago. Literally. I think they got 1 playoff win or 2 playoff wins in the last 20 some odd years. It's crazy. Like, seriously, it is that bad for them. Historically, they're not good in the playoffs. And statistically, it also shows they don't play their best football in the playoffs. So, I mean, when you talk about reasons to pick the other team, yeah, Tampa hasn't played very well. Yeah, Tampa's under 500. Yeah, Tampa's offensive line is pretty bad, but I'm going to go with the safe pick. And if it comes down to it, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, I'm taking the GOAT. 7 Super Bowl championships, almost every single quarterback record in NFL history. I mean, he might be 45, 46, but he plays like he's 28. And I'm going to lean on Tom Brady over Dak Prescott 10 out of 10 times every week.
Yeah. First of all, how dare you doubt playoff Lenny?
Oh, God, here we go.
Oh, geez.
How dare you? That is the best running back in playoff history.
Oh, my God.
Here we go. Here we go.
3 years that he's been in the playoffs ever. No,
You
I
can't
I
say it
think
with a straight face.
no, but I do like playoff Lenny. It just yeah, he's been in the playoffs 3 times with the Jags back when they went that weird Blake Bortles run, and then twice with the Bucks. But I I think this game really comes down to the Cowboys run game versus the backers of the Bucks, Devin White and um, Leonard. It really comes down
Levante David.
Levante David. I don't know why Leonard. Um, Levante David and Devin White. It really comes down to them going against Pollard and Elliott. If they're winning that game and they can hold that combination under like 120, I I don't think that passing game is going to be very good. It's just going to be Dak being scared and inconsistent. Which, with that being said, I actually like Dak. Dak's one of my not my favorite quarterbacks, but I don't think he's as bad as everyone makes him out to be. But I think he gets the Cowboy overhype because it's the Cowboys. But yeah, this is going to be a running trenches battle. Both the Bucks and the Cowboys are probably going to run the ball 25, 30 times. They're not really going to just have Tom Brady sit back and throw the ball 50 times like they've been doing all year. But I do think it's going to be a one possession game, probably something in the mid 20s. Like it'll be tied at 24, and Tom Brady will have the ball at the end to go down and kick a field goal, or they'll be down by 1 or 2, and they same thing. They need to go down and kick a field goal, and their big play receivers, Mike Evans and Godwin, will come up big at the end. It's going to be the same storybook play of Tom Brady's whole career. It's just you know what to expect, which is good because fuck them Cowboys. Them boys ain't shit.
Wow, that was a good close out there. I like that.
Holy shit.
That was a statement right there. You said that with some conviction there.
Would have swore he cheered for somebody in the NFC East that wasn't the Cowboys the way he said that.
I know.
Eagles were my dark horse pick at the beginning of the year.
That was a good
I
dark horse.
picked Jalen Hurts in every fantasy league, and I picked what's his name, Brown in every fantasy league I could.
AJ?
AJ.
Yeah.
He was on my team too.
Boy,
He cooked this year, so I'm not complaining about it either.
Yeah.
But Kev, we do have one more topic to get to before we wrap this up. And I know you're gonna be excited about this one. It happened a couple days ago. The biggest beatdown that we've ever seen in a national championship game took place this past Monday with the Georgia Bulldogs. Destroyed is probably not strong enough of a word here. Just annihilated TCU by the score of 65-7. Is a 58-point margin of victory for Georgia. Kev, just take the floor on this one. What are your thoughts on what Georgia did by spanking TCU?
I mean, let's be blunt here. This is why the SEC is the superior conference. I know that we can talk about the Big Ten, but when it comes to big performances, big schools showing up on the greatest stage, it's going to be the SEC. Georgia is one of the most dominant football teams we have seen over the course of the last 5 years. They have lost 2 games in 2 seasons. They have legitimately 2 national championships in 2 seasons. They have the best collegiate defense in the last 2 seasons. Oh, and by the way, their quarterback is probably me and Charlie and Kyle's age. That man's pushing 30, and he is probably going to be the greatest State Farm salesman we've ever seen in this era. And he's got 2 natties to hold to it. TCU, I'm sorry, every time somebody comes out of the Big 12, it doesn't bode well. Oklahoma did it twice. Yeah, but what did Oklahoma do? They had good offenses. They had no defense. You can't even make the argument that TCU had a good offense. I mean, Max Duggan was mediocre this game. A QBR of 49, 2 interceptions. I mean, 152. There was no possible way that TCU was coming out of this game with a victory. I'm sorry. It just 65-7. That's almost 60 points. That is almost 60 points. This game was an embarrassment. This is why there should be a whole different conversation for these SEC schools like Alabama. This is why I say, like, sometimes I'm like, as much as I hate Alabama, Alabama would have made this way more competitive. The ACC had its run when Clemson and Florida State were making their appearances. Obviously, the Big Ten will always have Ohio State. Michigan lost to TCU, so that puts a little bit of a dictation on as to how good Michigan is when the team that they lost to scored 7 points in the national championship. But I mean, shout out to Stetson Bennett, man. Coming out of nowhere, performing the way that he has since he's been named the starter at Georgia for the last couple seasons. I mean, that Georgia Bulldogs defense was no joke. They were swarming. They were forcing turnovers. They were just stopping everything that TCU had to offer. There was no joke. I mean, Kirby is probably going to go down as one of the most aggressive coaches in SEC history. And I mean, the Bulldogs are they're that team. They are the team to beat in college football until somebody knocks them off. And I think that is just a tribute to Kirby Smart's just incredible coaching style. They breed different animals at the University of Georgia. UGA doesn't play with defensive players. Offensively, they have great running backs, offensive linemen. I mean, you name it. Some of the better players in the league as of recent memory come out of the University of Georgia. And it's not a joke. So, I mean, kudos to Georgia. The championship stays in the SEC. I mean, as always, it's fuck UGA because I'm a Florida Gator fan. But, I mean, there's nothing you can say to make an argument that they are not one of the best college football teams of the last couple seasons.
Charlie, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I was so eager to watch that, but I needed to go to the gym. So I kind of was like watching along on my phone while I was at the gym. And I swear the game went from 14-7, I think it was, or something like they both scored pretty close to each other. To the next time I looked, it was 24, and then the next time I looked, it was like they just scored again before half, and then they got a pick before half and scored again, and I stopped watching. It was just, yeah, this is SEC. Like this is why Bama. I know nobody wants Bama in there, but like this is why you have two SEC schools, or you expand the playoff so you can weed out the mess. And hey, if TCU can beat a Michigan, if TCU can beat an Alabama or an LSU on the way, or a Florida, depending on the year. Sorry, but if they can beat one of those teams that are these monster all NFL player teams, like if they can beat them on the way to the final, sure, you deserve to be there. But when you beat one team in a one game and then the next game you just get blown out, like it's such a bad look. Like this goes back to like the argument of UCF back when they were, oh, we're undefeated, we should be the champion. Look, we beat Auburn, and Auburn beat Alabama. Transitive property, we should be the national champion. No, you beat Auburn in a game they didn't want to be in. Like it just doesn't. Sorry, this is my random Leviosa prop. But yeah, man, like it just, college football is slowly getting fixed. I don't think it's going to be fully fixed in the next couple of years. With USC coming over to the Big Ten, like that'll help because you're gonna start getting just like the Big Ten and SEC kind of. Well, the Big Ten will balance out the SEC a little bit, but God Squad can't hang, and that's unfortunate.
God Squad, I can't with you, Charlie. Can I give a funny stat before Kyle goes? Does anybody know the total rushing yards of that game?
Of overall from TCU or Georgia, or just
both schools.
60 all combined.
That's actually a really good guess. TCU had a total of 36 yards rushing as a team. Georgia had 254. Max Duggan had negative 38 rushing yards.
I always get confused because that doesn't count sacks. That's like scrambles. That's popping out of the pocket that they'll count as a.
I think they technically still count those. Like when you get sacked, I think they still count that against him.
Okay.
Negative 38.
Yeah, I think that was.
I don't think I've ever seen a number that high.
Kev, how many times did he get sacked?
It doesn't even tell me, but I'll go and look at Georgia's
I
defense.
mean, I don't
Let me
even
tell-
need to see the number. I mean,
5.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Dude, 254.
So
36.
So let me break it down to you guys like this. I'm only gonna make 2 points. They're gonna be really quick. You guys had to hear that pregame speech from Kirby Smart, right? First of all, ain't no way that were they losing that game after that speech. I can tell you that right now. And honestly, I'll just kind of leave it at this. Obviously, everybody knows the score, 65-7. It's the biggest beatdown in national championship history. It's not even close.
It was bowl game history too.
Even worse for TCU. Georgia's backups scored more points than TCU.
Oh,
When Georgia's backups got in there, I believe they scored 14 points.
Jesus
Did
Christ.
Georgia-
TCU scored
more?
7.
their defense scored more, right?
No.
I think they had a touchdown.
I don't think Georgia's defense had a touchdown. They had an interception, but it wasn't a pick six.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Georgia's defense didn't have a touchdown.
Okay.
But that's all I gotta say. They weren't losing that game based off of Kirby's pregame speech. Ain't no way. You guys, I mean, you want to talk about F-bombs. I mean, F-bombs were getting thrown around like it was a freaking, all right, we're going to throw a grenade here. Literally, like, it was nuts what Kirby was saying in that pregame speech. And when the backups for Georgia put up more points than freaking TCU as a whole, that's all I got to say. Georgia was eating freaking chicken wings during the game.
I saw that. That was crazy.
Like, they knew this shit was in the bag. Like, those boys knew, like, they had it in the bag. They were eating freaking boneless wings during the game.
Hilarious. That's too funny, bro.
I'm surprised they weren't smoking freaking cigars on the sideline with, like, the fourth quarter to go because
They not like Joseph. Don't play.
what? They're not as slick with it. They're just not they're not.
They
as
just
cool
can't
with it?
pull that off. Can you say? Well, Stetson Bennett had a cigar last year when they won, didn't he?
Yeah.
Pretty sure that image. He didn't look as cool as Joe Burrow though.
I think LSU had a better social media department when it came to like their videos that they recorded with the slow mo
facts.
and like the
That is
4K
facts.
videos. LSU knew what they were on when Joe was there, so I'll give a little bit of credit. But Georgia's for real. You know, to win back-to-back championships, I think they're the first team
That's
to do
hard.
it since Florida.
Bama, right? No, I thought Bama won back to back.
No, I don't think Bama.
Didn't Clemson do it since then? Because Bama did in like 2012 or somewhere early
Maybe
2000.
No, Clemson didn't win back to back. They went to net back to back championships, but they won one and lost one.
You're right. Yeah.
I could look it up real quick.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it had to have been Bama because Florida won 2006 and 2008, not 2007.
All right, I got the list here. So, Alabama did it last 2011, 2012. Florida did not do it. USC did it. And then Nebraska. So those are the most
Nobody cares about the Cornhuskers.
Hey, yo, that's my family's hometown.
You're from Nebraska?
I'm not from. I'm a South Florida boy, born and raised. But yeah, they're from Nebraska. Yeah,
I had no idea.
it's unfortunate.
Nothing
Long, cold winters and boring summer trips. Not a good place.
got nothing but corn and farms out there. I'll tell you that. Driven through that state, it's nothing but freaking corn and just farms.
No thanks.
And it's
Not a fan of corn.
And it's flat.
Yeah.
Very flat. So, but
Anywho,
Kev, I think that's it. That's all we got.
yeah, that about wraps it up. Charlie, we appreciate you coming on, man. We know it's a little late. Our tangents tend to drag on just a wee bit, but super happy you were able to get on the show, man. I know we've been talking about this for a few years.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me and to let me rant about the Bolts. Go Bolts, baby!
Oh, God.
Bolt up! We're gonna do something for a game.
You gonna be saying that even if they lose?
I'm gonna be tears in my eyes, my LT jersey just soaked. I'm just gonna be saying Bolts up, man.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing you live pretty high up, so no one's gonna hear you screaming and crying if you lose.
Bro, my worst nightmare is them somehow making the Super Bowl and it being Tom Brady that they face, because then they have no shot in hell. Tom Brady is the bane of my childhood existence. I don't know how I don't hate him,
He's the
because
savior
he
of
I
just
mine.
do.
He's the savior
their
of mine.
best
Yeah, we're aware.
their best seasons with LT and Philip Rivers, Antonio Gates. They ran into Tom Brady's like 08 and 09 teams, and it's just
Yeah, so I remember the Patriots beat them in the 2005 divisional round. That was the year the Chargers went like 13-3 and had, I think, the number 1 seed. And
Was that the
then
year that Philip Rivers tore his ACL?
no, that was
no.
2007. That was the year that they went to the AFC Championship game. We went to Foxborough. I think Brady had like 4 picks in that game, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And yet the Patriots still won by like 9 points. It was like 21-12. It was an
Yeah.
ugly game.
One of those two, I think it was the first one. Ed Hockley, another guy, hate him. He had a horrible call in the end zone. I don't even remember. I think I blocked it out of my memory. I just remember something with Ed Hockley ruining my childhood and making me again cry into my LT jersey at the age of like 10.
I remember Nate Kading missing the field goal that would have
They
tied it.
always miss field goals.
It-
They have the worst field goal history in the entire league.
I think that
The
was
Chargers
the
special teams was horrible back then.
I think that was the game that we sent Marty Schottenheimer into retirement.
Dude, you guys had
Yeah,
Sean
it was
Marion.
Warner.
Oh, Sharon Merriman. Oh god, that guy was electric.
Not against the Patriots, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But
But
the Chargers weren't the only team we did it to, so.
Yeah, whatever.
But
Us
now,
too.
but now, you got one. You got one.
I know.
We choked in that one for sure, because we were up like 21 points or 18 points, whatever it was.
That was such a great game. I listen to that and I still get chills.
Must be nice.
I know. It's okay. You got us back in every other instance. Do you understand? Right next to the Patriots, the Chargers were like one of the most. I hated you guys so much.
It was there was guarantees for the Chargers. We were gonna miss field goals, have injuries, and pick off Peyton Manning. That's
Yep.
it. That's our guarantees. That's all we got.
Every time. I don't know what I'll never forget 2008. We were in San Diego and Darren Sproles runs like a 20-yard touchdown in overtime to win the game.
That's
and you
what I-
guys
The other thing that the fourth guarantee is that we have an all-purpose running back. Those
because
are our
LT was always hurt in the playoffs all the time.
the later in his career he got, and that's why he went over to the Jets and finished up there. But
Listen, both of you guys can kiss my ass because both of you are the reason why I cried a lot in the postseason as a child. Okay, listen, 2006 was one of the greatest years of my life, but everything before that and after that, dog shit.
I think there's a special dark place in Kevin's heart for what the Patriots did to him, though.
God. If I knew Kyle back in the day, I probably would have put holes in his tires.
Would have keyed my car.
I hated those. I still hate the Patriots, but dude, I
It doesn't
couldn't
have the
do
same.
it.
The vitriol is not the same.
I couldn't do it, especially when we were in Foxborough. Those were the worst games because Peyton just couldn't play in the cold.
well, Tom doesn't lose in Foxborough.
Yeah, the one time we beat him was in Indy. That was in the RCA Dome.
I think you guys beat us once on Monday night in Gillette. I think it was like a Monday night game.
Was that the toe tap Marvin Harrison catch in the corner of the end zone on Rodney
It
Harrison?
might have been the season opener.
Might have been.
Might have been the season opener. You guys beat us on that one. I'll give you that
God,
one.
that was a crazy catch. That was a crazy catch.
Well, I mean, he had good genes because you know who was going to be pretty special coming up. You already know.
That's what we're gonna do, okay? This is what we're gonna do. This is my strategy, right? We
Okay.
draft Stroud. Right? And then Arch goes into college. He plays at Texas. He plays another year, whatever. Next year, we draft Marvin Harrison Jr. We trade Stroud for some capital, and we draft Arch Manning, and we got Manning and Harrison Jr. right back at it.
It's just it's written in stone.
It's perfection.
And you know who's going to be the owner of the Colts?
Me.
Well, I mean that'd be a step in the right direction. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. If I own the Colts, man, we gonna have a good time.
Better than what you guys are going through right now. I can tell you that.
Mandy's in the show.
Yeah, she just got let in. You can say hi real quick. She does.
Mandy does her own thing, but I know Charlie's probably got to take care of the pup. So, Charlie, again, thank you for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
To the audience, we really appreciate all the support, all platforms, social media, YouTube, wherever it's coming from. We're growing exponentially. We are less than 100 subs on YouTube away from hitting our goal of 1,000. So, I mean, we're growing in every aspect that we possibly can. But again, no matter where it's come from, genuinely, we're having a lot of fun. To have friends and guests on the show like this is just one of the pleasures of just being able to do what we want to do on our own show, man. So, that about wraps it up for everything I got to say. Kyle, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I just Charlie, I just appreciate you coming through and joining the podcast. It's been a hot minute since we've had a guest on, and it really was just a privilege to have you on. I'm glad that you were able to work it out and be on the show. So
Yeah,
I know
appreciate
Kevin and I definitely appreciate that. So
Yeah.
and
Want me back?
I'm
Let me know.
keeping my fingers crossed for the Chargers since I picked them this weekend. So we'll see
Hey,
what
get out of
happens. I'm kidding.
Jags pick, Kev. Come on now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's that bias from the AFC South. I get it though.
No, I don't like the Jags. I also don't like the Chargers. So, I mean, once again, I don't. It doesn't really.
I was actually looking up how many picks Cromartie had against Manning that one game.
Oh,
I just
God.
couldn't. It was like 4 though, or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of them was one-handed, right? It was a one-handed one in there.
Yeah, one of them was.
Oh yes, that was the one yeah, that was disgusting. That was gross. I will give him that. That was filthy.
Even Manning.
But I'm pretty sure Reggie Wayne cooked him on a fade and on another route.
Had crazy athletic picks.
But
He's like 6.
Cromartie's always gonna have that one. I gave him that.
Yeah.
One.
Always.
But with that said, you guys that'll pretty much wrap it up from here. Once again, we thank Charlie for coming on the show today, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I got nothing more to say, so Kev, you can close us out here, brother.
All right. Well, guys, we'll see you again on Sunday. Sunday night after the. Actually, I think we might have to record Monday because of the Patriots. Wow, the Bucks game.
I wish, right?
So
I wish.
Yeah. No. We'll keep you guys abreast, but we're definitely recording either Sunday night or Monday night. But we'll see you guys again soon and have a great holiday weekend.
Is there?